Benchmark, the voice of business. Presented by LMD.
On this edition of Benchmark. On Spotlight, we're talking to Deshamanya Dr. Kishu Gomes, the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotion Bureau, on the state of the nation. Next up, LMD columnist Hasita Premratna discusses the market's reaction to the Easter Sunday attacks. And in our final segment, Travis Gomez, the product head of Frontier Research, analyzes the impact of the April terror attacks on our tourism industry. That's the lineup for Benchmark.
Welcome to the Big Picture Business Program Benchmark. I'm Savitri Rodrigo. Deshamanya Dr. Kishu Gomes, who's the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotions Bureau, is in the hot seat today, and we will be discussing the state of the nation with him. Welcome to Benchmark, Kishu, and good to have you on the show. And thank you so much for agreeing to share your views with us in these very, very trying times.
Thank you.
As you see it right now, what is the overall assessment of the state of the nation from what you see?
Well, it's a very, very bad, situation to be in. It's very unfortunate that we have to face this, situation since 21st April. So obviously everything is on kind of a reverse gear. The international community is very, very concerned about the affairs of Sri Lanka. So as we speak, the situation is that there's still a lot of uncertainty. I believe that initially we made a few mistakes in terms of managing the crisis as it emerged on the 21st. But since lately, over the past several days' time, we've done some level of damage repairing, and situation now is much better than what it was. So it's a very, very difficult situation where as a country we need to have one voice, one spokesman, one leader taking full control of all aspects of crisis management, and probably one team that would take care of the key aspects of crisis management.
So do you think the tourism industry has achieved this to speak out in one voice?
I'm fully convinced that we have responded to the crisis pretty effectively and efficiently, and fast enough as well. But the issue is, this being a national crisis, other pieces, had to fall into place. So that's where, things were not really, accurate. But within the tourism industry, what I did, initially was, putting a team together to respond to the crisis, taking care of different aspects of the issue. So senior leaders took care of different areas of priority as they emerged at that point of time. That included taking care of the hotels that were attacked, taking care of the injured and families of the deceased, and then obviously strengthening the security environment for the hotels. And we had to ensure that the tourists who were traveling in the country were taken care of, and we had to provide intense security for them. So we took a conscious decision to not to postpone any of the planned activities. That is, of course, learning from other countries where they have been through similar incidents, similar activities, similar attacks, similar calamities, all of that. So we quickly learned from those, and we took a conscious decision not to delay. So as a result of that, the first weekend after the attack, we went to Dubai. We took part at the Arabian Travel Mart, which is one of the biggest travel fairs in the world on the annual calendar. So we went with 60 hoteliers and travel agents, and we faced the challenge. Obviously, all the global media organizations, started asking us questions that were extremely difficult to be able to deal with. And then, of course, we ourselves, called for a global media conference where we had more than 60 media organizations coming over to listen to us, ask questions. So at the end, everyone who went from Sri Lanka was happy that we handled the situation pretty effectively.
You know, we've had an outpouring of international sympathy, an impressive amount of sympathy, but at the same time, we've also had travel advisories on us. As far as you know, how has the international community actually viewed these recent events?
They have all the reasons to be concerned about the environment that is existing in Sri Lanka today. Because for tourists, number one is security. Who would want to go to a country where there is a risk to their lives, and they are going to another country to enjoy the tourism products and services. So obviously, quite rightly, they had concerns, and they're being talking to us as well. So we're being addressing some of those concerns, but the issue being security. The role tourism could play in this is somewhat limited. So therefore, the relevant stakeholders should have actually managed that effectively during the initial stages. And as I said at the beginning, it didn't happen the way it should have happened. That's not just my view only. That's the view of the entire nation. And there are big stakeholders in this industry, and they all, in one voice, said, as a country, we didn't, manage it properly. But we are now on a journey to repair that damage. We are addressing the travel advisories. As we speak, we have about 37 travel advisories of different nature. Some countries saying you shouldn't travel to Sri Lanka, but some countries saying unless it is essential, don't visit Sri Lanka, and some countries saying be mindful of the fact that it's not a very safe environment. So whatever you do, use your good judgment and decide where you should be, where you should not be, things like that. So it's bad enough. Having said that, so as opposed to last year actuals, we are doing 1,700 tourists a day, which to me is a significant achievement. So drop from last year average, daily average, to the actuals we're recording today is only a 60% drop. We should be actually extremely happy that we have 1,700 tourists still visiting the country. So what we're doing now is using them to send messages to the rest of the world to say, see, we still have 1,700 tourists coming in, and this is what they have to say about the security environment, the tourism products, and the experience they are getting. All of that. I think that's the best strategy in our journey to be able to win back confidence.
On the local front, how have these recent events impacted the economy and also the business prospects? Yeah,
I mean, as we all know, tourism industry contribution to GDP is 6%. Last year, economic value was 4.5 billion US. So we were chasing a 5 billion rupee target in terms of value, and in terms of numbers, we were targeting 3 million tourists. So that's the size of the tourism industry, and as we all know, tourism is the third largest foreign revenue generator for the country, and given that number one and number two are being challenged due to some dynamics across the world, tourism had the potential of becoming number one over the next 3 years or 4 years. So we had very optimistic goals to be achieved, but with this surely there is a setback, but we are keen to bounce back. In terms of our tourism value proposition, it's all there intact. Nothing happened to the tourism value proposition other than of course, this very unfortunate attack on the 3 hotels. And 2 hotels are back in operation. Within days, they managed to, respond to it positively and effectively. Shangri-La is going to be opened from 10th of June. So it's this pretty, good response by the 3 hotels. So other than that, there was no impact to the tourism products.
For the last 10 years, Sri Lanka has been at the top of being an international hotspot. We've been that undiscovered gem, but then this put paid to all that. In your opinion, what can Sri Lanka do to start rebuilding her image as an international hotspot?
Okay, from now on, we should not be making any mistakes in terms of messages that we deliver to the rest of the world. There has to be one message, and that one message has to be that Sri Lanka has been able to eliminate this terrorist group, and therefore Sri Lanka is as good as what it used to be prior to 21st April. Every single leader in the country maintaining that statement based on facts, obviously, but that is what is needed. And then beyond that, obviously, we need to be aggressive in our marketing communication campaigns. As the sentiments, change from negative to neutral to positive, we will kick in with an aggressive marketing campaign together with another global marketing communication organization. So that's to, try and reposition the tourism products and go with a, new kind of idea and a new or enhanced, amplified value proposition to get the potential travel excited about it. Because if it is the same thing, yes, it's the same thing, but you guys have an issue, so therefore I don't want to consider it. So therefore there has to be newness, there has to be innovativeness, it has to be exciting, all that. So these brand attributes are attributes that we need to basically try and embrace onto the tourism value proposition, brand proposition we've been having to excite the rest of the world.
So we will continue this discussion after a commercial break, Kishu. So time for that commercial break, as I mentioned, but on the other side, Kishu Gomes will tell us a little bit more about the lessons that Sri Lanka can learn from similar situations in other countries, and also the strengths that Sri Lanka has to move on. Do stay with us.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
$8,500 done. 1,500 to go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
You're with Benchmark, and in the hot seat today is Deshamanya Dr. Kishu Gomes, who's the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotions Bureau. Kishu, the tourism industry seems to be battling things on all fronts at any given time, really. Last December, the winter season saw a fallout because of the October problems that the country was having. And then we have the Easter bombings. And then we also hear of an election looming next year, and what would that do for the tourism industry and the tourism numbers that you are expecting at the end of the year for the winter season?
Cost obviously is enormous, and it's good that we don't know how to quantify it, because if we quantified it, we would have all felt extremely bad about it, but it is enormous. Savi, everyone is talking about the impact on the tourism industry. But let me tell you, based on my own assessment, analysis and understanding, the economic impact on the entire country far exceeds the negative impact on the tourism industry. Many billions of rupees. Country came to a standstill, and productivity has gone down to very low levels, and it would take a few more weeks to be able to get back to the rhythm we were on, and then investor confidence, and then various other things, negative implications. It would take a few years for us to be able to recover, and during that period we will lose many billions.
So from a business perspective, what are the challenges that Sri Lanka has to face in the coming year?
Business challenges obviously would be lack of growth or minus growth in many industries. The demand in most industries will drop. It has dropped, and we managed to get the government to approve a financial package for the tourism industry. So they are being actually looked after, if not 100%, up to a decent level. But how about the other industries? They also have made investments in their respective industries. They also have to keep servicing their loans. They got to pay high interest and capital repayments, all of that. So the top line is affected as a result of the lower demand following this attack. And people have not been, come into work both in the public sector and private sector. So therefore, they've not been able to meet some of the deadlines when it comes to exports. And then you lose reliability in the eyes of your buyers. They would want to, lean on to other countries. So this has a chain of, very bad, huge, enormous negative consequences, and it would be good for the government to take account of that, and then try and do what it takes to help those industries as well.
So do you think that country's national reconciliation efforts have been compromised in any way?
It is, to a large extent, and some of the emotions are being controlled consciously, and with some advisors and some mitigating actions. You can't keep the people that way for a long time. There will be a time when they will want to be come out of their shells and express their views and emotions, all of that. Given the magnitude of the issue, people are very patient. They are tolerating anything. They are all out to align with any advice that comes in. But I don't think that will be the case forever, and there will be a time when people will come out and want to express their true feelings and express their opinions and all of that. So technology only cannot manage that. Technology is not the response. It's basically tuning their minds and hearts to what is right, and making sure that pipeline input is dry.
And finally, Kishu, what are the strengths that Sri Lanka has to move ahead after this?
The biggest strength, I would say, we being a very fortunate nation, not to say that we need to depend on that. That's not something you can depend on. But we've had a very resilient economy. I mean, other than in 2001, where our country recorded negative growth, we've been recording decent growth even during the time we had terrorism. So that's why I said we're being fortunate for whatever reason. And also we being able to bounce back despite all the mistakes we have done. The strength of experience is not the experience of the politicians. I mean the business community. The businesses have been through this, and businesses have been able to bounce back. And if we use that experience we've gained at a huge cost, I think collectively we'll be able to get out of this, and I'm very, very positive about it.
So thank you very much, Kishu, for that very candid and frank interview, and we do hope we keep in touch for as events unfold, as the weeks and months go by.
Thank you very much.
That was Deshamanya Dr. Kishu Gomes, the chairman of the Sri Lanka Tourism Promotions Bureau, who was talking to us about the state of the nation and specifically on the fallout and what the tourism industry is going to be doing in the future. On the other side, we have Anushan Selvaraja with more.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
$8,500 done. 1,500 go. Hoorah!
What on earth are you doing?
I'm making money.
You're crazy.
Crazy for money. 10,000 steps done. Who the man? I do it every single day. Show me the money.
So you run 10,000 steps every day, huh? You must be fit.
Some days I do 20,000. Hoorah!
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anushan Selvaraja. Now for a closer look at the latest on the bourse. Joining me is market analyst and LMD economist Hasita Premaratna. Welcome back to the show, Hasita. So it's been a really bad time for the country, especially now the CSE has supposedly regressed by around 7 years. What are your thoughts on what has happened post the attacks?
Yeah, I think the first few days things were holding on, but then since then, of course, we've seen a continuous decline in the market. There have been few ups and downs, but broadly the activity levels have been down, and the market indexes, all share price indexes, fallen down to close to 5,200 levels. So I think investors have been quite jittery and no clear direction in a positive trend. So that's probably what made things worse. But having said that, I think the EPF was supposed to get into the market and some of the state funds, so there was a lot of expectation on one side before the new year that post new year there will be more activity, but unfortunately post new year when the incidents took place and the bombs went off, everybody went into a shell. So it's not about only the market, but it's about in general the whole country has gone into a shell and slowly coming out of it.
Forget about the government, Hasita. Now, what can the business community themselves do to increase confidence?
I think there are two angles to it. One is that as citizens of the country, all of us now I think have to start coming out. I mean, as we've seen, gradually things are improving, but having said that, the space as it is being improving has not been too good, because the consumption levels are significantly down. You name it, in any industry, there is a significant drop in the consumption levels because people are scared to go out. Obviously, the hotels are the most impacted, and then the tourism-related industries like travel and other supporting industries have also got impacted badly. But apart from that, if you look at any trading company, any retail company, right, other than hospitals, I think pretty much everybody else is feeling the impact of the consumption drop. And consumption drop is actually a man-made problem, in my opinion, because we've got scared and we're just not living our normal life. But I think the government and the security forces have now given the assurance that there is safety in the country, and we have to believe in that, because 21st April, 1 hour, this whole incident took place. After that, on a terrorist angle, nothing has happened, right? From these bombings, etc. Zero event, absolutely zero event. So nothing has happened, but it's all about rumors and all about created fake news that has put people into this fear mode. So we have to get out of it. We have to start getting into the consumption, and then the economy will slowly start coming in. Because right now, what we are seeing is that that everything is kind of slowed down because we have got into a shell. We should come out of it. We should get into some middle path, and obviously move on.
The recovery this time around seems to be taking a little bit longer than it did prior to the civil war being over. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think the way the communication is happening, where the social media is taking, where some of the media institutions are behaving has definitely not helped, because you need more sort of proper communication, and also the more authentication of information, especially when you look at the type of fake news that is going around and spread over social media, is kind of creating something that maybe 10 years ago we never had, an atmosphere. So it means that in that environment, naturally people do get into panic mode, and most of the time people press the panic button too early, not knowing whether it's reality or not. So people who publish, people who share in a Facebook post have a responsibility to take charge and say that, hey, if I'm sharing something, I have verified that I'm just sharing. I'm not sharing just because I've seen something, because that just keeps spreading and creating unwanted fear in the whole community and society. So we have to get over that, and I think we will very soon. Also, we have to be very, very clear that terrorism is one thing, and this whole community violence is another thing. That's something that we should not get into. Terrorism is something we have to eradicate. We have to be very firm, and we have to support the security forces and the government to eliminate terrorism. There's no doubt about it, whether it's whichever the party who's doing that. But having said that, the type of subsequent events that took place was very disappointing, very, very sad, because that's man-made problems that really came in with different agendas and intentions, which is extremely sad to see. And I think we have to all live as Sri Lankans together, and all communities have to work together, hold hands together, and ensure that this radicalization and the terrorism is being changed and moved. Terrorism you have to eliminate, radicalization you have to pull them back to this side of the pillar, and ensure that people are working together closely like the way we used to do it, and that will really bring back normalcy and reduce the tension and let the economy flow through.
Thank you for joining us, Hasita.
Thank you.
That was market analyst and LMD columnist Hasita Premratna. We'll be right back after a short commercial break. Stay tuned.
LMD is making waves, airwaves. The next big thing from Sri Lanka's pioneering business journal, LMD Podcast, now online. Listen to our articles on the go at www.lmd.lk. Select, play, listen. It's that simple.
Welcome back to Benchmark. I'm Anshan Sevaraja. Now we're going to take a look at the impact of the Easter attacks on the tourism industry, and to find out a little bit more about the relief measures that the government has brought in for the sector. So joining me from Frontier Research is Product Head Kishu Gomes. Welcome back to the show, Travis. Now just to start off and to lay the foundation, just tell us, what was the government expecting from the tourism industry prior to the attacks?
So I mean, looking at what was happening towards the end of 2018, given that we had like the political crisis and all of that, I mean, going into 2019, there was a lot of expectations that this would sort of like be the year that there's going to be a strong rebound in tourism. And, you know, they saw like, you know, the marketing campaign was working. They were proposing to have this, you know, the visa-free entry. So there was a lot of expectations riding on that. And based on that, they were expecting like about 3 million tourist arrivals, and looking at the first quarter performance, it seemed to suggest that we would be going there. If you take like March, you know, there was a tourist arrivals, they increased by about 6%, earnings went up by 5%, so there's a lot of optimism going into the year.
Post the attacks, Travis, there are a lot of numbers being spotted around as to how much the industry would actually lose. Could you just clarify those numbers, please?
So I mean, in terms of the numbers, looking at the April April numbers that were recently released. So that has clearly shown there was a drop. There's like a 7.5% drop in the arrivals, and the expectations are, and looking at what has sort of like the similar impacts that have been there in other countries which have seen this kind of attacks, it's what they're expecting is about there'll be like a 1.5 billion decrease in terms of the tourist earnings for this year, as well as going into the expectations. There's definitely going to be a significant impact on the numbers of arrivals, and what they're expecting is they've revised it down by 1 million. They're expecting more or less the tourist arrivals to be flat this year at 2 million.
What about the relief package that the government has offered for the tourism sector? What are your thoughts on that?
I think definitely it's a good, in terms of it gives a good signal to the market, and because what we've seen is with the hotel operators, even prior to this, they were struggling a bit with that, so definitely this would be a positive thing. But I feel one area that I think they need to focus on more is particularly with the informal sector and the supplementary tourist establishment, because if you look at the past trend for the last 5-6 years, it's very much that has been the industry that has really been driving this. So it's not just the hotel operators, it's even the drivers, the tourist guides. There's a whole like an ecosystem that is affected. So I think they need to take that into account as well. So some of the measures might go towards it, like for example, they have proposed for the loans that are being given for SME loans, they have been encouraging the banks and the finance companies to reduce the lending rates on them, and they've been taking some measures according to that. So things like that would help, because a lot of those SME loans would be for these kind of supplementary establishments. So I think the other aspect was with regard to this moratorium on the interest rate payments. So again, there's not a lot of clarity in terms of who is able to get this benefit.
So what else should be done now to begin the rebuilding process for this industry?
The focus has to be there has to be like a clear message from the government to show that this situation has been returned to normalcy, because looking at the trends in other countries as well, when it comes to like a terrorism related impacts, it takes about a year to recover. So very much what the sort of message we need to put out is that this was like a one-off thing, and things are getting back to normal. The danger we want to avoid is it becoming a prolonged issue where it like evolves into sort of like a political crisis, because we saw even like 2 weeks after there was some disruptions that were happening in different parts of the island. So because and that's the situation we want to avoid. Because if you look at a country like Egypt, that was something that happened to them. So starting with 2011 with the Arab Spring, after that they had these continuous sort of disruptions where they had a political coup, they had like terrorism related things. So because of that, even today the tourist arrivals numbers has not recovered to what it was. So that's the situation you really want to avoid.
Thank you very much for joining us, Travis.
Thank you.
That was Product Head of Frontier Research, Travis Gomes. Thank you for watching Benchmark, and we hope to see you again next time.